2,000 years ago, the largest city on Earth was not London, Paris, or New York. It was Rome, a city of nearly 1 million people, where emperors ruled an empire that stretched from Britain to North Africa and from Spain to the Middle East. But ancient Rome was not only a place of emperors, armies, and monumental architecture. It was a living, breathing city filled with noise, trade, crowds, and everyday life. To understand Rome at its peak, we must imagine what it felt like to walk through its streets nearly 2,000 years ago. Approaching the city from a distance, the first thing a traveler would notice was its immense scale. Roads from every corner of the empire led toward the capital. These famous Roman roads, built with remarkable engineering, carried merchants, soldiers, officials, and migrants toward Rome. As travelers drew closer, they would see massive aqueducts stretching across the landscape like long stone bridges, bringing fresh water from distant hills into the city. These aqueducts were among the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world and were essential for supporting Rome's enormous population. The city itself spread across 7 hills beside the Tiber River. Its skyline was dominated by temples, public buildings, and massive monuments built from stone and marble. Smoke rose from thousands of homes, and the sounds of carts, animals, and crowds echoed through the air. Unlike many modern cities, Rome had no quiet center. It was dense, chaotic, and constantly moving. Entering Rome meant passing through one of the great gates in the city walls. Once inside, the streets were narrow and crowded. Many were paved with large stone blocks worn smooth by centuries of traffic. Wagons carrying grain, wine, oil, and building materials rolled through the streets, while pedestrians moved between shops and homes. Street vendors called out loudly to attract customers, selling bread, olives, fish, fruit, and hot meals prepared in small street kitchens. Rome was a city of enormous contrasts. The wealthy lived in elegant houses known as domus. These homes often contained interior courtyards, decorative fountains, colorful mosaics, and walls covered with paintings. From the outside, they appeared simple, but inside they displayed luxury and status. Wealthy Romans hosted elaborate dinners where guests reclined on couches while servants served food and wine. Vocer now definium texto para narrasso. Another essential part of Roman urban life was the public bath complex, known as the Thermae. These enormous bathhouses were much more than places for bathing. They functioned as social centers where people gathered to relax, exercise, discuss politics, and conduct business. Bath complexes often included hot baths, cold pools, exercise areas, gardens, libraries, and even lecture halls. Thanks to the aqueduct system, Rome had access to an enormous supply of fresh water. Water flowed into fountains across the city, allowing residents to collect it for drinking and cooking. Public latrines were also common. Although sanitation did not meet modern standards, the infrastructure of Rome was remarkably advanced for its time. Food was another central element of daily life. The Roman diet varied depending on wealth, but staple foods included bread, olives, vegetables, fish, and wine. Grain shipments from Egypt were particularly important, supplying much of the wheat needed to feed Rome's large population. The government even organized grain distributions to help ensure that the city remained stable and well supplied. The Tiber River played a vital role in Rome's economy. Boats traveled upstream carrying goods toward the city's docks, where cargo was unloaded and stored in warehouses before being distributed throughout Rome. Food, marble, timber, and luxury goods passed through the city every day, connecting Rome to the wider empire. But Rome was not only a place of trade and entertainment. It was also the administrative heart of a vast political system. From the imperial palaces on the Palatine Hill, the emperor governed territories that stretched across 3 continents. Officials, messengers, and military commanders constantly arrived in the capital, bringing news and reports from distant provinces. Despite its wealth and power, Rome faced many challenges. Fires were a constant danger in the crowded neighborhoods. The most famous disaster was the Great Fire of Rome in AD 64, which destroyed large sections of the city. Flooding from the Tiber River could also cause damage, and managing such a massive population required careful administration. Yet for centuries, Rome remained the beating heart of the Roman world. Its roads connected distant regions, its laws influenced governance throughout the empire, and its culture shaped art, architecture, and language for generations. Walking through Rome at its height would have been overwhelming. The sounds of traders bargaining, soldiers marching, animals pulling carts, and crowds gathering in public spaces would fill the air. The smells of food, smoke, animals, and the river mixed together in the narrow streets. Above everything rose monumental buildings that symbolized the wealth and power of the empire. For the people who lived there, Rome was not just a city. It was the center of the world. Everything seemed to lead to Rome, and from Rome the empire was ruled. Even today, the legacy of ancient Rome continues to shape the modern world. Its ideas about law, government, architecture, and urban life influenced civilizations for centuries. Though the empire eventually declined, the memory of Rome at its peak remains one of the most remarkable chapters in human history. Nearly 2,000 years later, the ruins of temples, forums, and amphitheaters still stand as reminders of a city that once ruled the ancient world. Rome was more than a capital. It was a symbol of ambition, organization, and power on a scale rarely seen before or since.